Hello, welcome to Labour. You're never in self-isolation. How are you all doing?
Hey,
Hey.
Welcome to the show. And we've got a packed show. We've got John McDonnell coming up later, and we've got loads of people to talk to. So I'll start off with some good news. We've got Sharon Thompson here from Birmingham Council, Labour member from Birmingham Council, and she has some great news about what's been achieved there. So, are you there, Sharon?
I am. How are you?
I'm great. Sorry about that. There was a scary sight just before you arrived. I thought that's not Sharon.
Okay, no, I saw it, but no, we're good in Birmingham. I think for us, we've been really focusing this week on homelessness and supporting our most vulnerable on the streets. So we've managed to spend a lot of time speaking to them about coronavirus, because they haven't had the information that the rest of us would have picked up on the news. And a lot of them who were reluctant before to go into accommodation are now in accommodation. So we've got 35 off the streets. But then we've also been working with some of the hotel chains. So Holiday Inn Hotel has agreed to pledge 200 rooms that come with food for our most vulnerable in the city. So we can use that for self-isolating people that possibly would have been on the streets, and other vulnerable people as well. But we're hoping that once we've got them in there and they get used to being back in accommodation, it will prompt some of those that were more reluctant to come back inside to stay back in new accommodation. We'll find them somewhere else. And we've had a couple of them that we've actually managed to be able to find tenancies for. So at least 3 people who were rough sleepers are now in Housing First flats, which is fantastic news. We're really pleased.
wow, absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic.
So did you told me that there was another thing that you've managed to achieve as well?
Yes. So in Birmingham, it's very diverse, like a number of cities across the country. The government, I think it was about a week ago, were talking about changing the way that we do bereavements. So they were talking about having more control over whether they cremate or bury people, which was really challenging for some of our faith groups. So the Jewish and Muslim community prefer burials, the Sikh community prefer cremations. So we've been lobbying the government. I know a lot of Labour MPs have anyway, but I've been working with Shabana Mahmood, who's one of our Labour MPs in Birmingham, and we've been having conference calls with actual Tory ministers and putting forward the case for Birmingham. And now they've given us lots of reassurance that they've amended the bill, which they have, and also said that money will be made available to local authorities to make sure that we can deliver the best service in terms of bereavements if anyone does pass away because of coronavirus, that actually fits in with their religious choices. So that's been a really good success also.
And you told me you've been working really full on for the last week, but you haven't had much to do today, so you're quite grateful to be able to join us here.
Yes, I've had a bit of free time, so I'm looking forward to having a laugh with you guys, listening to some entertainment. And I just want to thank you for putting this on every week, because it's helping us, because there's so much doom and gloom at the moment. We all need to put a smile on our faces, so thank you very much.
Yeah, well done, Chris.
Thank you. And moving on to I just wanted to say before I move on to the next guest that we have 2 administrators here who are going to be watching over everything. We've got Wendy in Newark CLP.
Hi.
You there? And we've also got Mark, who's in Workington. You there, Mark?
How you doing? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So you're both doing well?
Yes, thanks.
Are you looking forward to hearing John McDonnell later on?
Yes, I definitely am.
I mean,
he's been the star of the last 3 years for me. Chris, been 4 years. He's brought some reality back to the party, and I think, I mean, I was sceptical at first, but I think he's been absolutely superb.
Yeah. And we've got, and talking about a superb Labour representative, I did a show in northeast Derbyshire in Dronfield during the general election. There was a magnificent turnout, and the candidate there, Chris Peace, is here as well. Chris has got something to tell us about the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign. Chris, are you there?
I'm here, yeah. Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm all right, yeah. Holding out, you know.
Holding out. Have you got enough blood roll?
I'm doing all right for that, actually. I don't quite know how, but no problem at all.
You don't know how you've done it?
Well, that gig in North East Derbyshire, Crispin, was awesome. Thank you so much for doing it. And thanks for doing these gigs. And please, people, support Stand Up for Labour as you know, as much as you can. Keeps us going.
Thank you. So what's happening with the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign? Do you want to give us an update on that?
Yeah, so, well, it's the 36th year now since the end of the beginning of the miners' strike, 35 years since the end of it in the 80s. And we're campaigning for a lot of the injustice that happened during that year, and actually the legacy of it, which we're still seeing now, acutely seeing now, in fact, in terms of what the work offer is, you know, and the trade union movement that was in the 80s, that was destroyed by that Thatcher government. I'm absolutely thrilled to see some of the successes that we've had this week, which have been pushed by the trade unions. But you know, we make the point always in our campaign that what happened during the strike, you know, we are living with the legacy of that now. So on the 18th of June, I'm sure you will have seen, and now is your perfect chance for everybody in isolation to check our website about the horrific things that happened that day on the site of the Orgreave coking plant. It resulted in 95 miners being arrested and put on trial. The police lied in court. Unfortunately, they were all acquitted, but no account. And we know that the state interfered with the policing to smash the miners and to smash the unions and open up, you know, the world to a free market and privatisation. So what I'll do is we'll put on the group chat the details of our website, details of our social media, and how people can just, you know, get a little bit more knowledgeable. It's not something that's just about a few people in South Yorkshire that are banging on about it still. This is a national campaign. We've got some brilliant young activists involved.
Okay.
You can see the links between what's happening in their ex-mining communities now and what happened then. I'm also can give you a one-off preview. This is the first time we've announced. We did a film that people may have seen, about 200 people crammed into the NUM headquarters in Barnsley to watch our miners' strike stories film. Well, we're going to be getting that out online, and you can be able to download it and watch it. It's got our film on. It's telling the stories from people who were involved at the time, their children, and it's pushing the point about how important it is now more than ever to be in a trade union. So I hope people will download that. By the end of the week, it's going to be ready and we'll be pushing it. So follow us, please. On us Twitter, on us social media. It isn't history what happened during that strike, and we've got to get justice for the miners, the families, and as communities.
Thanks, Chris. Right, so you're going to put that on the chat. And
all the details on the group chat, so people can have a look.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Well, look, I'm just aware we've got. I just saw Susie Bennett there. A shot of Susie Bennett. Are you there, Susie?
Oh, it's frozen then.
She's in the garden.
Are you there? Can you hear us, Susie?
Yes, you froze a little bit then.
So what's happening? What are you doing in the garden there? Have you got a story to tell about what you're up to?
I'm soaking up my vitamin D. I've recently got a new best friend, which is Rita the recliner. Purchased online. Best thing I've ever spent £40 on, and
You look-
soaking up the vitamin D.
Yeah. You look like you're in
Somebody was treating
Ibiza.
us to a very loud version of Something Inside So Strong, one of the neighbours, but they've turned it off now. But everyone's mowed their lawns, so it's nice and peaceful now. But I've been trying to. I've got my Columbo and Chill T-shirt on. It's weekend, so Columbo's on somewhere.
Oh, right. So you just got that lounger, and the sun's been out, so it's been quite a good day to self-isolate.
Do you know, I got it on Tuesday, and it arrived on Thursday, and the man was already halfway up the road. He left it on the doorstep and legged it. So I'm very grateful for the delivery service. But I'm trying to turn my garden into a bit of a home gym. So I've got a few things going on. I'll just try and turn the camera around. I was thinking about some things to occupy myself. I'll just try and turn. There's my camera. So I've got a few things. There's Wilson catching up. You do, mate. There's Rita. But I've got a few top tips. I've got a few tins here. I don't want to make anyone jealous, but I'm using these as weights. So macaroni cheese is quite good for your biceps. Curry beans, they're going to be the last thing I resort to when everything runs out. But I've also got a hula hoop, so I could do a bit of an assault course. I've mostly just been running it up the path like I did as a child, to be honest, because it didn't quite fit around me. But I noticed a neighbour of mine's got a swing ball, so I'm going to turn my rotary washing line into a swing ball, and that's going to get a pair of tights and some kind of laundry ball and make my own. And also I've got this mobility assist step. And I'm going to do a bit of step aerobics on that. So that's a good top tip. I'm going to be doing that. I've decided not to start till Monday, though. I'm sorry about my little slippers. They look like camel toes. And there's my hairy legs. I was thinking of starting a hairy legs pageant for ladies only. Look out for that online. Men are not allowed on that one because testosterone's a bit of an advantage. So here's my lovely home.
Well, thank you for sharing your fantastic self-isolation.
Thank you. I'm probably going to get crazier as the week goes on, but the diet starts Monday, as it has every Monday for the last 30 years. So till then, I'll just keep Columbo and Chill and eating crisps every day, and then when it all runs out, it'll be no choice. But thanks for doing this. It's really nice.
Thanks, Susie. And
Well done, Susie.
I've also noticed that is Isaac still there? Is Isaac there?
Looking for him.
No? We'll come back for Isaac, but Patrick's definitely there. Patrick,
yeah.
Patrick,
I'm
I like
so
your
jealous.
artwork there. What's that? Where did you get
Thank
that?
you.
Is that a Warhol thing?
I went to Lidl. There was no food left. They've only got art. I'm literally just grabbing what we can. I don't know what that is. That's a butterfly, I think. That was meant to be a wrapper of a baked beans, but I think Susie's got it. She's taking it. I'm jealous of Susie's gym. How have you got an outdoor gym?
Oh, you just got to make your own.
God,
I'll think of some more things.
Yeah. And yeah, send us some tins of beans. That'd be lovely. It's it has been good. I'm still in. We're in West London. It's been great, and it's quite funny because it was lovely chatting with everyone here last week, and we were talking about self-isolation and social distancing, and it wasn't that bad at the time in London. But I don't know how many people are on the chat here are from London as well, where it was really bad yesterday. We couldn't get in the supermarkets. They were starting to do the queues outside the supermarkets. We have to do like 2 meters apart. And it sounded like a good idea. But then once we got in, it all totally went to pot, because then the problem was you had to follow the person in front of you. And then I was going down aisles I didn't want to be in, so it took about 3 hours to do a supermarket shot yesterday. And then I got so used to following this person in front of me, I ended up going to their house. So it totally ruined the whole idea of self-isolation. I've been there for the whole night. But it was a bit worrying. But one of the interesting things, I think you've got to stay positive, is that you're allowed to wear any mask that you want out and about. I don't know how many people have done that yet. Where I was in the supermarket yesterday, this fella had a scuba diving mask on. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic, just to, because when else could you get to put a scuba diving mask on when you're in like West London? Unless it's for all the occasions really. But I think it's one of them things where we're worrying about at the moment where, if you're struggling to get food. So I always think we've got a bit of time on our hands. I don't know if you've done this, Chris, but I don't know if anyone else has done it. I haven't got any masks. So what we've done is we're making our own. and it's actually quite good because it's helping recycling. So at the moment, I'm making an isolation mask out of a cornflakes box. But I'm open to suggestions if anyone else wants to give some ideas. That'd be brilliant. Also, self-testing kits. Now you have to stop me here because I know I'm going to rabbit on. Anyone got a self-testing kit? Have you got one, Crispin?
Self-testing kit? No, I thought you could only get that if you're royalty.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I was looking at this, and I think it literally, if you've got £375 to waste or spare, then you've definitely got some sort of virus. That is the problem here, where, you know, we should be at least have some sort of, I think there should be a way where we can get, make a cheap self-testing kit. There should be somewhere. I mean, we could all, we're sat around all day at home. We should be coming up with some experiments or some ideas for it. I mean, if
but you don't look much worse than you were last week. I have to say, you actually look a bit fitter for this.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, I've just been. I think it's probably because I'm 2 meters away from the screen. If you could see me a bit closer, you'd probably see how bad I am.
Well done.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone looks so much better from a further distance. You won't believe it.
So, well, good to see you, Patrick, again.
Good to see you, Crispy. Good to see everyone. Good to see everyone looking good.
And Don, I see you're there, Don.
Yes, hello.
What's happened with you? Have you met any more Liberal Democrats this week? Because you couldn't find any last week, could you?
No, luckily I haven't met any. They still think they're going to win the election. But what's happened is I've taken the coronavirus test and I haven't got it. The reason why I've taken it is because I'm Indian. There's 5 doctors in my family, so quite easy to get. But there's been some breaking news as well. Apparently the coronavirus has been tested positive for being a Tory. So that's really bad. But I want to talk briefly, Christopher,
that's good.
About tax avoidance and stuff like that, and about our Chancellor. If you know our Chancellor, Richie Sunak, Sunak is an ancient Sanskrit word meaning shit Chancellor. So, and one thing the Guardian editor said today is that if we're going to provide debt for these big corporations, then they should stop avoiding paying their taxes. I mean, that's one reason why I stopped using Netflix, is because they fully pay their taxes. Another reason why I stopped using Netflix is because it's come to the end of my 30-day free subscriptions. But a couple more things, Chris. The annoying thing is, why are we giving money to the private banks so they can charge high interest rates and lend the money to corporations? Why can't we give the money straight to the corporations interest-free? I mean, the way the banking system controls us is by creating more money than actually exists and charges interest on it. And if we can't afford to pay that money back, they repossess our items. Now, like a lot of you here, a lot of you think I'm a conspiracy theorist, like my boss at work, whereas the colleagues think I'm a shit NatWest customer service advisor. And finally, one more thing. We had some great news. Testing for the coronavirus has been ramped up to the thousands, just so Boris Johnson can test his many kids. So.
And I noticed we've got Boris on the bog, haven't we?
Yes,
I'm here. It's Patrick. Patrick Twitter. Patrick, yes. Hello, everyone. Hello. Nice to see you. Yes, it's Boris here on the bog. Self-isolating from my wife. Not 2 months, actually. I don't know why this is. But some of you may recall I was talking to you the other night, Crispin, and I've undergone a Damascene conversion. As you can see. I changed my attire. And I'll tell you why. The reason is, over Christmas, I read John's little red book, and I thought, look, if we tossed sixpence over to all those wallers who voted for us up in where they speak like Bobby Charlton, up that part of the world, then I think it's maybe we could throw a few more sixpences after them. But Jeremy Corbyn's problem, come on, you all know this. Jeremy's problem was he was far too moderate. Too moderate. He didn't want to spend it. So what I've done, I've actually, unlike Labour, I've grabbed the bull by the horns, quite literally. Well, maybe it's with Susie in the back garden to look out, Susie, my bull's behind me. What I've done is I've invested massively invested all over the country. And you know what actually swung this? I'm going to do socialism through the front door. What swung it was last Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. Was I on here at the time? I didn't remember, but just after, the whole of Felton, where I am, the whole of Felton, the whole of Britain was out there applauding me, applauding the health workers. Now that's what really swayed. That's what made me think, right, I'm going to resign as an MP. There's going to be an Uxbridge by-election. I'm standing as Boris Johnson, Socialist Labour. Because obviously that's the way to do it. It worked for me in December, and it's going to work for me again. Thank you, folks.
Well, get well soon, Boris. Get well soon, Boris.
Yes, sorry, yes. Coronavirus has contracted Boris Johnson. Yes, it's in the paper. Thank you, Dom. Dom.
Thank you, Boris. And we've got Catherine Kenway from Brighton here as well. So, Catherine, you did a show for Stand Up for Labour in Brighton, and also you've gone on to be in the Hackney Empire New Acts final. So, what have you been up to during the self-isolation crisis? Now you can't.
Well, having to get used to being with my family 24/7, which is hard work. Yeah. But this is all weird, isn't it? All this virtual, everything's virtual now. Since this lockdown, I'm getting used to it though, which is great because I'm drunk virtually every night. People who know me, they know I've got 2 teenage boys, and I actually think they've been forgotten in this crisis. They've lost many things they need in life, like school, socialising, and loo roll. I felt quite desperate actually because one of my kids is supposed to be doing his GCSEs this year, and all the exams have been cancelled, so he's now going to be given his grades by his teachers. So I didn't want to do this, but out of desperation I've had to start a GoFundMe campaign to pay for the teacher bribes. And one of my other teenage son was actually travelling in South America, and all this kicked off, and he had to come back on Monday on government orders, and since then he's been isolating in his bedroom. Yeah, I mean, nothing to do with the virus, he just pissed me off. Yeah. But it's working out all right for him because he's in his room and I'm having to take him meals 3 times a day. He started texting me now, actually, his orders, and calling me Jeeves. Yeah, I wish I'd never learnt to read. But this home learning's interesting, isn't it? I mean, the kid next door's been doing keepy uppies all week. I didn't know he went to a football academy. And friends have said to me all different things that I can do, whilst this is going on, things I can do in my home, I don't mind doing the odd puzzle, even playing a game with my family. But one thing I won't be doing is yoga in my front room. No, joking aside though, I am worried. I am very worried about going to hospital. So I have changed my behaviour, and every single day I'm making sure that I'm wearing a new pair of knickers. Right. I better mention Boris Johnson, hadn't I? Everyone wants to hear about him. Yeah, because apparently he's got it now, isn't he? Yes, yeah, either that or he just wanted another 2-week holiday.
Not too bad, I hope.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bad enough, I can tell you. Bloody hell.
He seems to be having a bit of trouble on the toilet. That's the thing that we're noticing about him.
Well, he's pretty inept, isn't he, Boris Johnson? I mean, that's another thing we found out about him is that he doesn't know how to sing Happy Birthday. And
pick you up on that.
One of his symptoms was a raised body temperature. And obviously, he's been out of the fridge too long.
Right.
Well, we better not talk too much about Boris Johnson. He's probably enjoying all that. So,
what about the companies?
The what?
Sports Direct and Wetherspoons. I don't think they're going to do very well after all this. Because they were determined to stay open, weren't they? Saying they provided essential services, but because we all know, don't we, in a pandemic, what everyone really needs is a tracksuit and a late night fight.
Don't worry, we get those in Feltham anyway. Actually, that's all right. Tim Martin, what a bastard, Tim Martin. Yes. How much is he going to pay? Is it 80%? We were told the other day, or 20%? What a tight-fisted bastard. He still hasn't fixed the toilets in Wetherspoons, Feltham. Here we are. Here we are. Brexit bollocks. Come on with the next one. John McDonnell is arriving. John with his little red book.
No, we've got Isaac's back. Is Isaac there?
Isaac.
Yeah, I've always been here. You just muted me.
I didn't see Isaac. It wasn't me. It was
okay,
Wendy.
someone did.
It was Wendy.
Right. Oh, it looks like someone took my idea.
Yeah.
With Wilson here, but I have got one last parcel left. Now this is here. Oh wow, that's first. Hand
Like
sanitizer.
oh wow.
Rubber gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite a few good things with that. Spaghetti bog rollio or something. Spaghetti bog relays. Yeah. A couple of things. Yeah. Quite a good thing with school as well now though. But I think by the end of the year though, my school will definitely be in special measures my homeschooling right now by Ofsted. But I am trying to do as many of the things that they told me to do as possible, except sports day stuff. I have to do 3-legged race. But standing 2 meters away from someone, I'm destined to trip on it. And Wilson here doesn't even have any legs. So that's a problem. Boris getting tested. Maybe it's, well, the only way I would say you can probably get your own self-testing kit for it is if you have an underlying wealth condition.
Very good.
Hopefully by next time I'll get the shave.
Good. This is your first gig then, Isaac? And it's not in front of a live audience on a stage. It's on this online format. Do you think you might be the future then? Mhm. Oh, this could be the future for you then.
It's very good.
Yeah, brilliant.
How well do you think he's done, Patrick?
Very good. Is this really your first time, Isaac?
Yeah.
Honestly, Jesus, you're very good. Really, it took me about 100 gigs just to get to that level. That was really good, man. And are you going to go?
Got loads of hair stuck in my teeth right now.
Honestly, when the famine hits in 3 weeks,
you look forward to that.
Yeah. Do you know what you should do when we're back to doing live gigs? Isaac, you should come and do Crispin's first stand-up for Labour gig. Where are you going to do that, Crispin? Which venue?
It'll have to be Bristol, because that's where Isaac is.
Yeah, Bristol, okay.
You'll come down for that, won't you, Patrick?
Yeah, of course. We'll all come down. Dom, Susie, Stevie, everyone, Catherine, we'll all do it.
Yeah, cool.
Boris will come. Alan? Yeah.
He'll have to bring his toilet.
And he'll be driving the van. He'll be like that.
Is Smug Roberts here? No.
Karl Marx has arrived, hasn't he?
No, but we have got here, guess who's here? John McDonnell's here.
Hey. Hi, Crispin.
How are you doing, John?
Yeah, very good, very good.
You've been doing? You've been really good during all this, and I was just putting on Facebook recently. I said that we need you to continue through this. What do you think?
That's very nice of you, but no, I'm now going to become an elder statesman, so I'll go back to the backbenchers anyway. Anyway, Crispin, well done for organising this. It's terrific, and thanks for all that you do. The Stand Up for Labour has been fantastic. Made a huge contribution. It really has. Thanks for all this. So I tell you what we've been up to and what the issues are at the moment, just briefly. Yeah. We've been trying to, we've been at this now a number of weeks in terms of trying to negotiate with the government as best we can, as much support for public services and individuals that are affected by the virus. On the public services front, you've seen what's happening on the NHS. The Chancellor has said whatever resources it takes, the NHS will have. The tragedy of all of this, though, and I think that's what people are waking up to more and more, if you've had 10 years of austerity, you've lost 17,000 beds, cutbacks going, staff, 50,000 nurse shortages. When you have a crisis like this, you're ill prepared. And I spoke to Matt Rack from the FBU last week, and he was saying, look, on the contingency plans the government puts in place, they've been preparing supposedly over recent years, and one of the highest risks on all the manuals that they get is actually a flu epidemic. But what Matt was pointing out is that actually, although the government's plans are meant to tackle risks like that, the investment hasn't gone in all our public services, and we're reaping the rewards of this now. And as was said by the guy from Lancet on Question Time the other night, it has been a national scandal. Anyway, we're pressing the government to make sure the money goes into the NHS. But also the big worry we've got is social care, because it's possibly the most neglected area of our public services. Before the crisis started, there was over 1.4 million not receiving the social care they need. We're talking about elderly people, often isolated, also younger people with disabilities and different forms of conditions that need support. And the big worry we've got now is that social care may well come into a real crisis if there isn't more investment. And again, a lot of that's been privatised over the years, and that's why some of the social care provision is on the edge all the time. Anyway, John Ashworth and Barbara Keeley from our side has been meeting with the government on telephone conferencing, putting pressure on them to make sure we get the resources out there. The lesson here, though, the lesson is about investment. You can't expect your public services to rise to the occasion like this without proper investment over time. And I'm really worried about the situation, but we're keeping the pressure up. The other thing we're doing, we've seen most probably in the media as best we can, we've been trying to say to the government, look, learn the lesson of what's happened in other countries. If we're going to have a lockdown, let's have a real lockdown, because at the moment, in some areas, I'm getting reports from back all over the country, it's a phony lockdown, people being forced into work in areas which aren't essential areas of work. And I tell you, some of the online shopping areas where there's the retail warehouses, people crammed into them, workers not in safe conditions, basically. A lot of construction workers being forced to work because they've got no financial support. Some of them threatened if they don't come into work, they get the sack. And we've seen that across the piece. And I've been inundated by emails and contacts, and individual MPs have been exactly the same around the country, where people have been forced into work, either because they've got no financial support or because employers have been threatening them. Unions have been taking it up, but it's on a mass scale. So we've been saying to the government, I've been all through in Parliament, but also in separate phone conferences with ministers, we've been saying there's employers exploiting this at the moment. What the government's got to do is monitor it and take enforcement action. If you can get fined for walking in the street with a group of people and all the rest of it, well, fines should be levelled against the employers who are forcing people into work. On the financial support for workers, you've seen the government's introduced the scheme for the employed workers, PAYE, and for self-employed. They're largely based upon what we've been negotiating with them and what we put to them, but we've been saying to them, we've been arguing for this for nearly 4.5 weeks. It's only the last week or so they've acted. The problem we've got there is a lot of workers are not covered. So if you're put on reduced hours, you're not included in the scheme, so you don't get the 80% of your wages. If you're in the gig economy, a lot of them basically 0-hour contract workers. If you're not on PAYE, you're not covered either. A lot of freelancers, and particularly in one area which has been really badly hit, is theatre and performers, stage managers. I've been getting masses of emails. Beck too has worked really hard to take up the issue. And we've had a teleconference with Treasury officials and Cabinet Office officials yesterday to say this is a real problem here. We need support for them. So all that is going on apace, and we've been, as I say, trying to make sure we raise it in Parliament. But now Parliament's not sitting, We've been having telephone conference meetings with ministers and officials. But I don't think they're taking this as seriously as they should do, the government. They're allowing operations to go on and sectors of our economy to continue operating in a way which is unsafe and not taking action against the companies that are abusing the system. In addition to that, I don't think the levels of support are good enough. It was interesting, I don't know if you saw it the other night, Matt Hancock, the Secretary of State for Health, was asked, could he live off £94.25, the sick pay levels at the moment? He said he couldn't. Well, no one can. So we've been arguing for increasing sick pay, making sure benefit levels now increase, job seekers, employment support allowance, but also carers allowance. And I've been getting quite angry with ministers recently about carers allowance. We're now dependent on a lot of carers. More and more carers at home are having to care for people, and all they're getting is £66 a week. It's a scandal, really. Final point, the international issue we raised. I did a speech 5 weeks ago saying that what we needed, just as we in the banking crash when Gordon Brown got countries together under the G20 and also under the UN, we needed an international coordination. They've only just started that realistically, and there hasn't been much cooperation coming from Trump, and that's been part of the problem. But what I'm really worried about is, all right, we're trying to tackle the virus outbreak in this country, but in the global south, in the developing countries, it could be even more serious, largely because of the lack of comprehensive health service and social care support, but also largely because their economies will collapse. And there doesn't seem to be any international strategic global plan. So that's one of the issues we've been raising with the government, that this government should be leading on this. That's what Gordon Brown did in 2007, 2008. Whether you agreed with his policy or not, he actually did get the world together to try and get a coordinated plan. So we're putting a lot of pressure on the government on that. I spoke to Gordon Brown. I've been liaising with him over the last few weeks. And again, trying to get a sense of urgency together about a global plan rather than just individuals concentrating on their own countries and then leaving the global south to suffer, because we could see really serious problems in places like Africa and elsewhere if we're not careful. Anyway, so that's the work that we've been doing, in addition to all the stuff locally in terms of supporting. I tell you what's been brilliant, though, that when people came out and applauded the NHS and carers the other night, I was moved to tears. I did an interview on LBC with Ian Dale, and to be honest, I couldn't start the interview. I was so tearful. It was really emotional. But I tell you, if there's any lessons learned from this crisis, is that austerity doesn't work. And I think there's a number of Tories now who'll be thinking, well, who's going to pay for this crisis? We'll have another decade of austerity if we're not careful. So what we've got to do now is, combat this virus, but also start thinking of the society that we want coming out of this and learn some lessons. Invest in your public services. Make sure not just public services are resilient, but also individuals and families. That we've got to build resilience into them by making sure people are properly paid and they're not in insecure work. But I think this is the sort of society of solidarity that we want. And I think we should start having that debate online now about the sort of policies that we want to see implemented and the sort of society that we want coming out of this crisis. And I think if there's one lesson that comes out of all this, it is about the sort of society of solidarity that we want in the future, and learn the lessons that austerity doesn't work, individualism doesn't work. There's only collective action that will tackle crises like this, about the society we want.
Hello?
That's me.
You still there, John?
Yeah, that's me done.
Yeah, that's you done. Thank you so much for joining us and for keeping us up to date with all that. But I mean, I have to reiterate that your work over the last 4 years has transformed Labour's thinking on austerity, especially, and I don't see how the party would be in such a good shape if it wasn't for you. And I think everyone here appreciates everything you've done. And we don't really want you to go because you've been so good. So we'll hope you can do another Stand Up for Labour
Can't work with me, John.
or at home online stand up for Labour sometimes.
Can't work with us, John. Your neighbour in Uxbridge.
Oh, always wanted to-
United in socialism, John. Come on, I'm isolated here. So why don't you come round for a cup of tea? Your little red book. Let's read it properly.
Oh. Well,
Crispin, whenever you want me for stand up, I'll be along anytime. Don't worry, and I'll keep on campaigning and working hard on behalf of the movement.
I've got one more thing, John. I've got a treat for you to end the show today.
Brilliant.
Because obviously Liverpool were doing really well in the league, and
we won it.
It's quite.
We've won it.
You know, this didn't come a few weeks later because you would have won the league, but
we did.
But we've got Steve Gribbin here, who's done gigs.
Oh, brilliant!
Or two of you, and he's going to perform a song specially for you. That's quite appropriate for this moment. So,
hello, I'm here.
Hello, Steve.
Stevie, go.
Here we go.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and sweet silver song of the lark. Walk on the wind. Walk on through the rain. Oh, your dreams be told. And oh, God, with hope in your heart, and you never walk alone. Never walk alone.
Thank you, Steve, for that. That's a fantastic end to the show. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We will keep the chat going if you want for a bit longer, so you can all talk to each other if that's not too chaotic. But also, I'd like to point you to a donation maybe to a future show if you want to contribute to that. I think that's in the chat area of this. And look, and John's got his Liverpool scarf on. What visual feast?
It's not Man United.
We'll be back on Wednesday. Thank you, John.
All the best. See you soon.
See you later.
Yes. Bye. Solidarity, comrades. Solidarity.